with a Cargo Dragon mission that was back on June 3rd, 2021. That was the Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS-22 mission. It sent up more than 7,300 pounds of science and supplies up to the orbiting outpost, along with a pair of rollout solar arrays. This was the second mission under SpaceX's Commercial Resupply Services 2 contract with NASA. Next up was its first human mission. That was Crew 3 back on November 11th, 2021. The third launch came just over a month later on December 19th, 2021 with the Turksat 5B launch. B-1067 flew for a fourth time on April 27th, 2022. Another astronaut mission sending up the quartet of the Crew 4 mission. It included NASA astronaut Jessica Watkins, who became the first black woman to serve a long-duration mission in space. This is also the debut of the fourth and so far newest Crew Dragon spacecraft, dubbed Freedom. SpaceX has suggested that the fifth Dragon to enter service, fifth Crew Dragon, I should say, the second generation, is supposed to join in the fleet later this year. Haven't announced which mission that will be, but certainly could be the Crew 9 flight in August. SpaceX and NASA have not said if that is, in fact, the plan. We'll have to wait and see on that. Flight number 5 for this booster was on July 14th, 2022. That was the fifth flight of this one, another Cargo Dragon mission for CRS-25. Sent up more than 5,800 pounds up to the space station on this mission. Flight number 6 was this booster's first Starlink flight. That was Starlink Group 4-34 on September 19th, 2022. Launch number 7 was the geostationary satellite called Hotbird 13G for Eutelsat. That went up on November 3rd, 2022. This booster's final launch of the year came on December 16th, the launch of SES's O3B Empower 1 and 2 satellites, manufactured by Boeing. Missions number 9 through 11 were all Starlink launches. Those included Starlink 5-2 on January 26th, 5-5 on March 24th, and 5-9 on May 14th, 2023. Launch number 12 came on June 18th when it sent up the Satria satellite. It's a communications sat for the Indonesian company PSN. Launches 13 through 16 were all Starlink missions. Those were Starlink Group 6-10 on August 17th, 6-22 on October 13th, 6-29 on November 22nd, 6-35 on January 7th of this year. Launch number 17 was the Telkomsat Maraputa 2 satellite. It was lifted off from Pad 40 on February 20th. And the most recent launches, number 18 and 19, both Starlink flights as well. Those were Starlink 6-45 on March 31st and Starlink 6-55 on May 3rd. Today's flight ties the fastest turnaround time for this particular booster at just 33 days. They're due. But for now, with less than 45 seconds left, let's go ahead and focus on this launch as we are just seconds away from the SpaceX launch director giving
launch director go for launch.
That go for launch. And with that, we are 30 seconds away from the liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 8-5 mission. The first from Cape Canaveral heading up to the 8th shell. Also the first carrying direct-to-cell Starlinks lifting off from Florida's Space Coast. And here we go in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 8-5 mission, and the Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. beautiful ascent of the Falcon 9 as it climbs up through the clouds tonight. About to approach max Q, point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Falcon 9 now hitting max Q. We're coming up on a few different events in fairly rapid succession. First, we'll hit first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That'll be followed by stage separation a few seconds later. And then the second stage engine start, followed by fairing deployment just before the 3-minute mark. We're now currently thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine ahead of its burn. Now 2 minutes into flight. Some great tracking views tonight from Pete. And as expected, fairly clear skies. And there you see MECO. It's stage separation. And the SCS-1 second stage engine start. And there you see those events from the SpaceX onboard cameras. Taking a look up, or now down, looking at the hypersonic grid fins deploying, and in real time you see the payload fairings deploying from Pete's tracking camera. And we see the same, of course, from the onboard cameras and the Starlink satellites, including 13 with the direct-to-cell capabilities. Now out in the open. A little more than 3.5 minutes into this mission so far. And at this point in flight, all is continuing nominally. Coming up, the next milestone we're anticipating is about T plus 6 minutes and 10 seconds when the first stage entry burn will begin. That burn lasting about 26 seconds in total. Seeing views of the upper stage engine. From our friend Pete Carson's tracking camera. Shifting the focus to see if we can catch that entry burn. We're now T plus 5 minutes, 6 seconds and counting. Just about a minute away from the start of that first stage entry burn. First stage booster continuing to make its descent, and soon it will slam on the brakes as it makes its way down to the drone chip. Just read the instructions. Looking up and inside the inner stage of the Falcon 9 booster on the left-hand side. Of course, the Merlin vacuum engine as it continues its burn on the right. SpaceX will continue to toggle back and forth between the two sides of the upper stage just to make sure that they're getting a even burn on that Merlin vacuum engine. Coming up on the start of the entry burn momentarily. And there we go, Pete. Well done. A little tricky to find through some periodic clouds. There's the conclusion of the entry burn in real time. Still going on in the SpaceX feed, coming in on a slight delay. And with the conclusion of the entry burn, the next milestone coming up is the start of the landing burn. It's coming up at T+8 minutes on the dot. That'll set up the landing on the drone ship at about T+8 minutes, 24 seconds. Now T+7 minutes, or 8 minutes now. Entry burn beginning in real time. Should see it coming in from the SpaceX feed in about 5 seconds. With the start of that landing burn, we should see views from the drone ship coming up on the right-hand side momentarily. Hopefully we'll get some audio as well.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
And for a
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
20th time, B-1067 is up and back down on the drone ship.
And vac shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Moving on to the mission stats tonight. This was the 20th flight of Falcon 9 booster 1067 in the SpaceX fleet. This was the 343rd Falcon 9 launch to date, again coinciding with the 14th anniversary of the debut of the Falcon 9 rocket. This was the 59th Falcon 9 launch of 2024, the 286th Falcon booster reflight, or the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This was SpaceX's 59th launch of 2024, including Flight 3 of its Starship rocket. So we're coming very close to Flight 4, just around the corner. This is the 116th orbital launch in the last 365 days, the 190th from Pad 40 for SpaceX, the 245th overall orbital launch from this particular pad. Taking a look at the bar chart where we stand right now. As you just heard, this is launch number 58, just a few shy from tying the total number of launches from all of 2022. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 83rd landing of a booster on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. That also marked the 247th SpaceX drone ship landing and the 316th overall booster landing to date. Finally, with some industry stats, this was the 42nd orbital launch from Florida so far this year, the 61st from U.S. soil, the 66th from a U.S. rocket company, and the 111th launch globally. And I will put a slight asterisk on globally since I'm also counting the launch of the ascent stage of the Chang'e vehicle from the moon, since it technically did go up to lunar orbit. I think we should count that as well. We'll find a way to count lunar ascents on our tracking charts distinctly, since that is very cool and should be noted as such. There have been 3 orbital mishaps so far in the year, so this is where our pie chart stands. The U.S. now with 59% of the pie, China 26%, Russia with 7% for its 7 launches, Japan with 3 missions on the year, India with 2, same with Iran, and North Korea with a launch attempt, but hitting failure about 2 minutes into flight. Taking a look at the live chat